Hello and welcome to Adventures in One Love. This is the second video in a 3-part series. In this video, Alex and Lydia sit down and talk about Alex's journey and traveling to Wuhan, China, and her experience getting settled in there as a teacher. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and like this video. Now let's get to the interview.
I'm very glad to be talking with Alex, one of my awesome friends. I love her so much. I'm trying to get adopted into her family.
You are.
I'm getting my way in
You're
there.
my big sister.
Amen. But you've had quite the adventure, and I really appreciate you kind of sharing it with us. So this is kind of part 2 to that adventure.
Yes.
So for those who are kind of joining us, essentially, Alex is awesome. No, I'm just kidding.
I am.
She is. Alex is an educator and an entrepreneur. I'll say this for you because you're about to talk a lot. You're about to tell us some awesome stuff.
Let me get some water.
Get some water. Alex is an educator, an entrepreneur, and she's called to China.
Yes.
For a teaching job. Surprise. This kind of came out of the blue.
It did.
And so you are actually you've taken some really God steps, leaps of faith in multiple areas of your life, and that's really shared in part 1 of this conversation. But now you are, I want to talk about you in the airport.
Oh gosh.
You are going to China.
Right. And so we left off on what I was packing.
Yep.
Tried to pack my whole life in 2 suitcases. It was the prep, the preparation.
Yeah.
I had actually started before airport. I had started doing Duolingo in Mandarin. And also I found another app that I use called Mango.
Nice.
Through the library. It's free. It's usually a paid app, but through my library.
We'll include those links.
Yeah, we will.
In these show notes.
So I started doing that, and I was asking the people that I had been in contact with over there, what do they recommend for learning the language? To which they said, and I quote, "You don't need to learn the language. You just need to come ready to speak English, and we will help you." And she said, you'll find people who speak English and they will help you. People here will help you with the English, with the Chinese part.
I love how you say that. Maybe it's because I know you so well that I'm like, famous last words.
My gosh. And so I was banking on that. I legit took a screenshot of that and I was like, okay, I don't need
Look, this is what she
to
said.
learn the language. It just when I freaked out about it, because Mandarin, if anybody has tried to learn Mandarin,
that's no joke.
it is a whole beast. And so I went there not knowing any Chinese, not knowing how to read anything in Chinese. You and I had a very small experience in Hong Kong for literally 12 hours. And so I assumed the rest of China was like that, where the signs were in Chinese and also in English. So we could get around if needed.
It was very easy to move around in Hong Kong because there was a lot of people that spoke English there.
Right, which I found out a little bit later that it's because of Hong Kong's very interesting history and their connection in China and to the rest of the world. And that's why it's very international.
Right.
So,
but that's not where you were going for a year.
No, I was going to Wuhan for a year, which I had never heard of that city before.
Yeah.
Anybody who I'd spoken to had never heard of Wuhan before.
Today,
now
everyone knows Wuhan.
Yes.
But when you were going.
Right. It breaks my heart the way people have gotten to know because Wuhan is an incredible city. I equate it to New York. That's
awesome.
the only, but bigger.
Wow.
Because I think New York is a population, I could be completely wrong here, of about 9 million.
I love how you're looking at me like I would know.
Question mark? I don't know. But I know Wuhan is 11 million.
Wow.
Or maybe New York is less. I don't know. But I know Wuhan has about 11 million people. And the way I remember going to New York and just seeing kind of where the city ended, you could see that on the horizon. When I went to Wuhan, I could not see the end of the city.
Wow.
On the horizon were more skyscrapers.
Wow.
And it was just constant building. And their goal, I believe, was to be the next Shanghai. So Shanghai is a really big city like Beijing. You have your key cities in China. You have Shanghai, you have Beijing, you have other cities like Xi'an, the more popular cities that people know. Wuhan wanted to get on the map. And so they were working really hard to become that.
They had some big events.
They did. They had the Military World Games held there, which was absolutely huge. essentially the Olympics for the military, and we had teams all over the world come.
Yeah.
And I was very blessed
World
to
militaries,
see,
not just Chinese military.
No, it was
right.
it was
Perspective.
everywhere. Yeah, it was which is really sad because the U.S. didn't win anything.
We're not going to talk about that right now in this part of the interview.
You know, but anyway, so Wuhan was working really hard to get on the map,
Yes.
which ironically they did, just not in the way they
Not
wanted.
in the way they wanted.
No.
I do want to give a shout out to our servicemen and women. We thank you for your service.
Yeah, they're amazing.
And we still love you even though you didn't get a medal at the World Military Games. Okay, I digress.
Moving on.
Moving on. Okay, so you get on the plane.
So I get on the plane.
I know it's super tough.
Yes.
You have an amazing family.
Thank you. Yeah, I was leaving my family. I did cry at TSA. Nobody knows that, but now everybody knows
Everyone's
that.
gonna know.
You know, they prayed over me at the airport. It was
Mm-hmm.
it was to the point where like it was so unknown, the situation that I was going
Yeah.
into. They had sent me an itinerary and they didn't send me a plane ticket. And I didn't even know if I could check in with the itinerary that they had given me. And it looked like it was only 2 flights. It was it was 4.
Wow.
It was 4 flights. And I didn't know that until I was at the Delta check-in, and I gave them my email with a questioning look like, is this what you need? Because I don't even know if this is going to fly here. The email they
You're
sent me
I'm
was...
packed and ready to go, but do I get to go?
Right. Because the email they had sent me like, oh, here's your ticket. I was like, this doesn't look like any plane ticket I've ever seen in my life.
And
It was,
I feel like that's such a setup for you because it felt like from that moment on, the Lord was like, you're kind of flying blind.
Yes.
You've got to trust every step. And it just kind of came to me. We mentioned Coffee Writers is something that we do. It's a podcast that we have for creatives. It's super fun. But I know, and even in those conversations, I was like, Alex, I just feel so great. I just feel so good for this.
mm-hmm.
I just know that it's going to be such a blessing for you. And it's great to hear that. But the realities of the beginning of that experience, it didn't necessarily manifest in that way right away.
It was just... I was going on the fact that it felt good.
Yeah.
Because, I was feeling peace.
You had peace.
Right. And I was like, okay, well. And it was so much me just relying on the hand of God to pull me forward. I literally felt like I was just standing in the palm of his hand and he was moving me because I was like, I don't know. First of all, I don't know the language.
Yeah.
I don't know what am I going to do when I get there. I have no idea. I didn't even know it was going to be 4 airplanes that I was taking and how long it was going to be. So,
I love that you were in the palm of his hand. And it's like, wow, that sounds so beautiful. Like,
No, it's scary.
But then that's terrifying because you don't know anything.
It was scary. But honestly, my sense of adventure has never been more heightened. I was just like, when people say we're going on an adventure, I was going on an adventure.
Yeah. And to put this in perspective, like one of the great adventures we've had, like we've been to Nepal. It's not like little, not that I'm going to say there's a little adventure. It wasn't like we were a day at the beach and we're staying in Florida. Like you've gone on some big adventures in your life.
Yeah.
And this was probably by far
the biggest.
Yeah.
The biggest one.
So I know you had like flights, but I really want to make sure we get put into context that you're flying blind. What happens when you get to Wuhan? Because all of it's pretty
right
unknown.
I got there at midnight, and it was a 40-minute drive from the airport to where I was going to live, and that was another big question mark. I had asked so many times for pictures of my apartment.
Oh wow, yeah.
I had no idea what my apartment was going to look like, and I made the mistake of Googling like apartments in Wuhan, China, and I got from super really nice, fancy, student housing because I was going to be living in on campus to wow, that's really roughing it. Okay, so I was expecting the worst, hoping for the best, and I was very blessed that the apartment was new.
Would you suggest to do? Are you glad you did that, or did that help?
What, Googling?
Trying to figure out what it was going to look like ahead of time.
Kind of, because I had seen the worst of it, and prepping myself like,
You're
if
like,
I
okay.
have to survive in that, I will. And so
Yeah.
I went with that mindset, like there might not be, their bathroom might literally be a toilet and a sink inside a closet. Like,
Yeah.
It could be, and I might not have a kitchen. I might just have a little gas apparatus, and it might be dirt floor. I don't know.
Yeah.
I just had no idea. I had no context. I did not, the university that I was working for, I said, I knew it was going to be nice. I'm working for a pretty prestigious university over there. I just had no idea what I was getting into.
And the great welcoming party that at midnight, I'm sure it was huge.
Oh, no, it was scary because they lost one of my luggages and I had no idea how to tell them, and I had no idea how to tell my driver, who did not speak English, to wait for me.
Wait, let me show you. This lady, she sent me a message. You don't need to know Chinese.
Yes,
Yeah.
and I had to call my liaison there who spoke good English to tell her, like, one of my luggages didn't come out, and can you call? And she's calling me saying, hey, your driver's been waiting for 30 minutes. He's really upset. It's midnight.
Welcome to Wuhan.
So I'm like, I don't have a luggage. I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
I was very, I had prepared in advance because I had seen people saying, misplaced luggage. And it's not that it's misplaced. It's that their customs are different from our customs of what they allow. So I had a lithium battery in my luggage, which is not allowed at all. So they had kept my luggage in Shanghai for that. But I had enough foresight to separate all my necessities into both of them. So if one of them went missing, I would at least have some toiletries and things.
Wisdom.
Yeah.
Wisdom from the Lord.
That was my friend who he said,
just in case.
they lose my luggage all the time. So make sure you're ready for that.
So you get to this very happy driver. He takes you to the university. What's your first impression of where you're going to be spending the next year?
It was small, but it was nice. I was like, I'm going to have to wipe everything down. There was a good layer of just like dust from whatever. But I was very happy to see that there was air conditioning and the bathroom wasn't crazy awful. And I had my own kitchen. It was like a dorm, but it was mine. And I was really happy.
You had privacy.
Yes, I was just praising and thanking God the whole time. Like, thank you, Jesus, that this is good.
Yeah. So you get there. Who are the first people that you meet there?
It was the next morning. She said, the lady who was my liaison in charge, she texted me and said, I'll be ready at 9. I get this knock on my door at 9 o'clock. And it wasn't like a polite knock. It
Not
was like
at 8:59.
Hey, we said it was 9. Where are you? And I don't know. It was just really funny. So I opened the door, and it's her and then the director of my department. And we go on an adventure walking through the city. I have no point of reference. I don't know where I am. We're just walking. I didn't know that I was in the middle of the campus. I didn't know anything. So I'm just following them in my little flat shoes, which get ruined because the streets of China are not the same as the streets here. There's a lot of pollution. There's a lot of there's a reason they take their shoes off at the door. So my shoes were ruined that first day. I had blisters. We walked. We got cell phones. We got bank accounts set up. We did all the logistics of me actually.
So you did have a lot of support getting there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I had them, and they showed me where to get food. I was pointing a lot when I had to order food. It was pointing and grunting and nodding and smiling and yes, no, I don't want the spicy chicken. I do want the rice, and then when you eat it, whoa, that's not rice. What is that? That was a lot of that as well.
Discovery.
And I was that first week I was by myself, and I was just, my biggest thing was I need a cup of coffee. And coffee they don't have Starbucks on every corner.
Yeah.
And, in China, it's tea shops. So when that was my first priority when I had my first class. Guys, where do I get a good cup of coffee? And all of them were like, we don't know.
Puerto Rican priorities.
So then a week went by, and I was getting little suggestions. Here's a good coffee place. Here's a good coffee place. But that was, so after my first week, I made very good friends. There was a couple from the U.S. who came, my same situation, had no idea what they were stepping into. I had been speaking with them. I had gotten their contact information before, and that was just a huge divine intervention because they became my best friends.
That's awesome.
We the three of us figured out life in Wuhan together, and they were going to be my adventure buddies all the way back home.
Yeah. And they were pretty key for you getting back home.
They were.
We'll talk about it in a minute.
Yeah.
But so you're in Wuhan, they get you established. You're teaching university students now.
Right.
Briefly kind of share what that experience was like.
Well, it was interesting. I learned a lot about Chinese education. The first thing they did with their freshmen, I actually had the first month off because I was teaching freshmen, and the first month of their university is military training.
Wow.
So they all learn, and they do that every school year. Every time when they go to middle school, the first month of middle school, they do military training. First month of high school, they do military training. And so what that looks like is they learn how to march in formation. They're given military, what is that? Camo fatigues, I guess.
Yeah.
So they all have those.
Okay, I love that. Again, I love how you're looking at me like, what's the word? I don't know.
Question mark? I don't know.
What she
They
said.
learn how
I
to
don't know.
march in formation. They learn how to shoot. They learn standard
Wow.
knife fighting techniques, and it's just what they do. And
Yeah,
I had
it's
no
just
idea.
for everyone.
Right? I had no idea. So my friends and I went walking one day. We stumbled upon one of their military practices. It was like 11 o'clock at night, and there's thousands of students in this field, and they're all in these little
Wow.
groups, I guess. What are they called? Battalions?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. And they all have their own leader, and they're all just marching around the field.
Learning how to follow.
Right. Learning
Wow.
how to follow directions, and then they'll stop, and then they'll do a different kind of march. And then some of them have the wooden guns. Some of them have, and they were just practicing out there till midnight. And what drew our attention, mine and my friend's attention, was we heard this, I don't know if it was the national anthem, but we heard like the music playing over and over and over again. It was just like their marching music.
Wow.
We were like, what is going on? So we just followed the music until we saw what was happening. And
That
we
was
sat.
their plan all along.
Yeah,
I'm just
and
kidding.
we sat and watched, and we were like, what is this? And yeah, I got someone on film because it was just so
Wow.
surreal. It was very, very surreal.
But that's like, these are your first introductions and kind of really what's established as an impression
right.
about this country, this place that you're at now.
Yeah.
And so students that are now, they spend 1 month before they get into the classroom. What are they like in the classroom?
Well, I was very blessed. I had the finance students
Okay.
who were going into the finance program, and they were freshies. So they were still very much high school mentality. They were not like any college students I had ever met. It was very much like everything still had to be spoon-fed to them. They still asked me if they could go to the restroom. They still were playing on their phones during lectures. They were still almost, cheating off each other, trying to do the homework by cheating off of each other. And I was like, are you in college? Are you sure?
See, all that experience in the second grade classroom, first and second grade, it brought you to this place.
It was a huge, yeah.
I mean, it really does. I mean, I don't want to make light. It really does bring you experience when you're able to.
Right. So I did still have classroom management issues that I had to deal with. I still had a lot of, I still had to put in consistent consequences for behavior that I'm like, you're in college. I should not have to do this. But
Yeah.
if you're going to learn,
So you have all these different things, and I want to make sure that we get to talk about, and we may have to continue the conversation because this really is such a rich experience. But you're teaching. How long are you actually teaching before the virus actually breaks out in Wuhan?
So I was teaching the entire first semester. Went by pretty much without a hitch. Their winter break is I want to say it was about a month and a half of winter break. So it starts with Chinese New Year, maybe a week or two before Chinese New Year, and then they have Chinese New Year, and then it goes on for a few weeks after that. So this year, for some reason, it fell on where we would have about 41 days off between the end of their winter or fall semester and the beginning of their spring semester. So it was between that huge break, actually a couple days right before Chinese New Year, that the huge outbreak actually happened. And I had been I use WeChat, which is the app that essentially is like WhatsApp.
Which I never was allowed to get on for some reason.
That's okay. But one of the features of WeChat, they almost have like a feed, like a Twitter feed, where kids can post, or anybody can post pictures, can post news articles, whatever. So I remember going on that feed. It's all in Chinese, of course, but I just remember seeing little bits of, hey, this outbreak is happening. A mysterious flu has infected this many people in the area of Wuhan. And I remember my friends and I actually had booked a trip out to Thailand for 10 days because it's very cheap to fly to the neighboring countries of China from China. So this was my adventure. I was like, okay, I'm going to go to Thailand. Why not? So I remember before I left for China, I'm getting ready, and I keep seeing these articles of more people are infected with this weird flu. And my head was like, well, thankfully I'm going to Thailand. By the time I'm done, hopefully, when I come back, hopefully this will be done. And I remember it didn't hit me how serious it was until when I got to China. When we got to Thailand, when we landed, there were people actually screening us, screening the Chinese nationals. Not us, but my friend who was from China. She had to get screened for her temperature. And they were giving us these little cards that says mysterious flu from Wuhan, China. If you have any symptoms, blah, blah. And it was like this whole instructional card that they had given everybody from the plane.
Wow.
And we were like, this is weird. And that was the first time I had seen certain airport workers wearing masks and gloves. Masks over there in Asia are not super uncommon because pollution is so high. People wear masks every day. Especially on high pollution days, you would just see, there's actually on my Chinese phone next to the weather app, there is a pollution index.
Wow.
So, it says, today will be sunny, but the pollution will be high. So make sure you cover up or you wear a mask or whatever.
I want to make sure that we kind of get the understanding. Like when you go on an adventure, you've really immersed yourself in this culture. You've really started to love your students and the people. You've establishing relationships. So you're kind of identifying that you are living in Wuhan. You're from Wuhan at this point.
Right. I was living there about 5 months. Mm-hmm. And then, one thing, going back to the VIP kid thing, I was actually able to meet two of my VIP kid students I had met.
In Wuhan.
Yes. They were
So
actually
awesome.
like my favorite kids, which was great. One of them was one of my favorite students, sweetest, cutest little girl. And I had been saying goodbye to her. I said, I'm not going to be able to teach because I'm actually moving to China. And she said, oh, where? I'm going to Wuhan. She said, I live in Wuhan.
So exciting.
And then when I told her where I'd be working, her mom works at that university.
Wow.
So I was able, they were one of my first friends there. They took me out to eat during the Chinese national holiday. She and her family took me to dinner. They took me to see the fireworks. They took me to see the light show. Like, they were incredible. And then another one of my students lives in Beijing, which is really far from Wuhan. It's about 6 hours by train, I think. Him and his family took a trip to come see me during one of their long holiday weekends, and they took me to Yellow Crane Tower, which is Wuhan's biggest, most famous landmark. It's essentially like their Eiffel Tower. Like, people say Wuhan in China, they're like, oh, Yellow Crane Tower. So they came to Beijing and took me to the Yellow Crane Tower. And so I had known those students too. I made those connections. And they were actually texting me while I was in Thailand, asking me if I was okay, because while I was there in Thailand enjoying my vacation, things were getting really bad in Wuhan. And so they were like, didn't know that I was out of the country.
So it's kind of like you're shielded, but you're exposed.
Right.
You're getting kind of really both perspectives.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So I was in Thailand, and I was just hearing the news feed was getting worse and worse. And my friends were reaching out to me because they knew they were very sensitive to the fact that I was a foreigner in their land, and they know that it's
And
really
they cared
weird.
for you. They loved you. I mean,
so I had a lot of students saying, hey, are you safe? Are you okay?
Wow.
Don't go out. Don't leave your apartment. And I'm like, oh, too late for that. I'm about to ride an elephant right now.
You're like having a great adventure.
I did. Yeah.
And I do want to
say,
say, the pictures, I mean, the fact that like one of your side gigs, like you were a photographer, you got some amazing pictures.
the pictures in the whole Thailand experience was crazy. And I'm really grateful I got to do that, because right after, things just went from freedom in Thailand to you can't leave ever, lockdown.
Yeah. So, okay. So you have this great experience in Thailand. You're with amazing friends. Like, the Lord has really blessed you and giving you this. But then you come back to Wuhan. What does it look like coming back from Thailand into Wuhan? And now it's serious.
Right. So we had people even texting us saying, don't come back to Wuhan. And to which I was responding, I have a ticket back to Wuhan. I'm going back. That's home right now. That's home base. I can't just stay in Thailand, which I could have, I guess. But, we were at the airport when we were it was almost like they were joking, saying, it's bad here. You should stay in Thailand and have fun.
It was like hard to read.
Right. It was joking, but
Kidding,
kind
not
of
kidding.
Yeah. Like,
Yes, my
you
favorite
shouldn't come
language.
back. Yeah. So it was scary at the airport. Everybody was already wearing masks, but it was like required. And then when we got to the subway that was going to take us, we flew back into Wuhan. Everyone was wearing masks. We were getting temperature checked. We were asked health screening questions to get back into Wuhan. And I just remember it was everyone on the train it was just quiet. Like, the situation was very serious. It wasn't quite a ghost town yet, but there were a lot fewer people out on the streets. And that had also to do with the holiday. A lot of people had gone home. It's like going home for Christmas. It was essentially like the Christmas season.
Yeah, and you're what would be like a college town.
Right. And it's a college town. So most of the students had already gone home. So when we got back, it was nighttime, and it was just like kind of eerily quiet. And we had been told most people go home during this time. So expect a different kind of vibe.
Right.
But we also knew that this outbreak was happening.
And I know that we're going to have to continue this conversation. So I hope that people kind of stick with us and join us as we go into part 3 of this. But briefly, you had kind of a glimpse into the healthcare system there in Wuhan.
Yes.
And so if you could just kind of put some things in perspective, and I know you look like how long
do I have? So yes,
But that's also, I'm sure, in the back of your mind as this outbreak is happening. You've had this medical experience in Wuhan,
right? Yes, my second week there, I did have to go to a hospital for an issue that I was having, and that was one of the most memorable things because it's just so different from the U.S.
Yeah, just the process of
of getting there. And of course, me as a foreigner, no one speaks English. I had to go with my guide. And to get good service, it's not so much what you know, it's who you know. And again, favor of the Lord was on me. The liaison, she had a very good friend who was the head of nursing in the department that I needed to go to. So she made a connection with her friend. She actually brought gifts for her friend. And when we got to the hospital, she cut the line and went straight to go see her friend and give her these gifts. And her friend got us in to see a doctor.
And now I want to paint the picture because the way that you explained it to me, it was almost like a market, like kind of a rush to get in, like
yes.
competitive
so
almost.
Each doctor's office, and I put that in air quotes, was essentially an office with a desk, and there was a computer, and then there was a very see-through curtain, and then an examination table on the other side of that curtain.
Yeah, forget the HIPAA laws.
No, there is no HIPAA laws. And then there's a crowd of patients around the doctor's desk, each trying to get seen. There's no line. Everybody is shoving their medical charts in the doctor's face to get seen next.
It's crazy.
And so you're basically fighting to get in. And so, it's these tiny little offices, and there's maybe a line of 5 or 6 offices in one hallway, and each office is crowded like that.
Wow.
And so,
So this is definitely knowledge that you've experienced when you first get into Wuhan.
Right.
Now there's a medical crisis that's broken out into the city, and you are forced into lockdown.
Yes.
And so I hope that those who are listening, please join us back for part 3 because we know you made it home. You're here in the United States.
I'm alive.
You're here in Florida.
I'm healthy.
You are healthy, but it was a journey to get here.
Yes.
And so I really hope that you join us. I'm Lydia, and I am joined with
Alex.
Join us for part 3, Alex's experience and adventure in Wuhan. Thanks for listening.